first thing I'd like to, Marion County, as you know, we went live last week. Basically what that means was we have a set of attorneys that are trained, they're registered, and they are pretty much allowed to e-file whenever they want. Civil cases only. And Marion County has the new case management system. But also another change in Marion County that Rhonda initiated, and I would like her just to speak to the reaction she got because I was there the first day and it was hilarious. Marion County went paperless also on that day, meaning that judges, everyone no longer had access to the hard copy file. They had to view it electronically. So I'll let her speak to that.
Hi, it's nice to be able to report to you all the success that the filing has brought thus far. I will tell you that Ms. James and Judge Alloy are very thrilled, and feel free to call their offices, speak to them, and they will tell you. Yeah. The idea of not having to worry about having files piled on their desk, on their side, on their secretary's desk, looking for papers, is awesome. They sit at their desk, they can be at the bench and view them. It comes right up. It was very thrilling on Monday to make history, and to make history in such a positive way. We've had a lot of people that have worked so hard on this, and they are seeing their dream come true. And it's very emotional for me to speak about this because I know the person who started this and how much she has worked and how much she will continue to be behind us with software, with the Supreme Court. So again, feel free to call Judge Alloy, Judge James's office, and check with them. Your judges may bucket at first, but I'm telling you, they will eventually be so happy to not forward files and papers and yelling at their secretary as Judge James does. Diane, call the circuit clerk's office. I don't have this. Diane calls down and we can get it for them. So that's all I have to say.
And yes, it went perfectly just like she said. It was some of the things that, while I was there, the Supreme Court dealt with was the family court judge. She wanted 2 screens. And her staff wanted 2 screens. And at first I was like, well, no. But we went and spoke with them, and they did, you know, it's something that I hadn't thought of when you go paperless is until we have e-filing set up to where you can do everything on 1 screen, you do have 2 screens technically. Correct, Barb? And you have the case management side, and then you have whatever the document you're working on. And it's something we're going to deal with because not every computer can support 2 screens. 2 screens will be very expensive to buy for every judicial employee and that sort of thing. So basically, I told the family court judge, well, we'll figure it out. I still haven't come back to her. But you know, that's just some of the questions if you do something like that. But you know, Rhonda should be applauded. You know, she kind of made that decision, and you know, she did it, and the judges were like, "Oh, okay." and you know, I think that we were in. I don't know if it was Alloy or Judge James, but I think they pulled Barbara's side. Like, well, this don't mean me, right? And Barbara's like, I didn't do it. And we said, no, you know, there is no more paper file. You know, technically, once we, you know, once e-filing is to a point, there will be no paper. There will be no hard copy file. So it's best to get used to it now. And that's what, you know, and once we sat down with Judge James and Judge Alloy and showed them the access they will have now, and the selling point was, it wasn't the judges. Judges are, you know, judges, but their staff. We showed that to their staff, and Judge Alloy's secretary was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So, you know, that's just some of the things you may want to prepare your judicial officers about, but, you know, that's coming. As we transition into a digital world, there will be no more losing files. There will be no more judges hoarding files. I know, I've been in some of your offices. I know that's what happens. I know there's one county, where's Cabell at? You used to have
Down on the Ohio River.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate it. He'll be here all night, ladies and gentlemen. Cabell County, it was a couple years ago, and the judge is no longer there, but they had a judge who would just stack files, and the deputy clerks would go in there and replace them when they needed them, but they wouldn't take anything. They would put something in its place so the judge wouldn't know something was missing. So that shows you how much the judge actually looked at the files. But I went with her. She goes, "Come on, come with me." She pushed the card up there, and she was just sticking in files. I'm like, "What are these?" She goes, "I don't know. I just grabbed them. I need these though." And it was so the judge wouldn't notice because he just had stacks. And, you know, and unfortunately, that day and age is long since gone. And so, again, you know, I wanted Ron to speak about that because, like I said, she didn't tell me she was making that decision. I walked up there and they're like, "Hey, the court wants 2 screens." And I'm like, "Why?" They're like, "Oh yeah, Rhonda went paperless." I'm like, "Thanks, Rhonda." So, you know, I think that's a good thing, and I think it's something that you're all going to face eventually. Some sooner than others. Some of you that have been scanning for years, you know, Laura could do it right now probably if you wanted to. So again, I just wanted to bring that up. Okay, and I have some stage questions, but does anyone have anything right now that you would like to discuss? Yes?
Do you have a schedule for what county?
Everybody wants a schedule.
Huh?
You know what they say, you want to hear God laugh, you tell him your plans. I don't have a schedule. I cannot. If I gave you a schedule and then I didn't meet that schedule, I'm no longer Matt the rock star. I'm just Matt, and someone's mad at me. You know, I mean, Laura's on me enough. You know, if I said Jefferson will be second, Laura's like, oh, you know. I don't have a schedule. You know, we're working hard. It's, you know, Barb and I, weekends, late at night, emailing, texting. It's constant, and it's very fluid. It changes every day. You know, the website address got changed on my Barb one day. Just, oh yeah, we had to transition to a new one because we were trying to log in. But I'll give you an idea of where we're at. We have the e-filing site. It's not perfect, but it's done. You know, we're still going to add some things to it, and I'll show you that tomorrow. But for all intents and purposes, the actual e-filing site that attorneys will e-file to is done. The judges module is done. Judge James and Alloy have been trained on it, and surprisingly, they both caught on with a matter of minutes. Judge James was a surprising one because going in, Barb said, "Well, you know, we'll have trouble with James." Alloy's more technology, you know, he's got a laptop and a computer. Judge James has got a 2001 laptop that's never even been turned on. So we got Judge James a new laptop, and we went to his office, and, well, first we went to Alloy, and Alloy was like, but his assistant looked at it, and he's like, "Okay, I'll do it, you know, he'll figure it out." So I was like, man, you know, we need to make the judge do it. When we train Judge James, we need to make him do it, because we didn't make Judge Alloy do it. So we set Judge James down, and it took him, what, Barb, 5 minutes? And he did it. He processed an order, rejected an order, accepted it, signed it, everything electronically, done. And on Friday, he finalized the first e-filing. He completed it electronically. So the first case that was e-filed back in, was it December or January? December. It was finalized on Friday, completely digital. There was no paper with that file.
His signature is what method you use?
Right now we're using it's a digital signature. It's basically it's a coded signature. We're still working out the details exactly how that's going to be as part of the pilot process. But it's just a digital stamp, you might say, and the clerk gets it and it says if it has that stamp on it, it's been processed. And you know, judges are really going to enjoy that once they see it because, you know, attorneys can submit these orders or motions electronically, and the judges they're right there. And there's 3 buttons. There's edit, accept, and deny. And, you know, or they can let it sit there. You know, but that's pretty much, that's how simple it is. And as you'll see with the e-filing attorneys, they're catching on pretty quick. Not all of them, John. John, I showed Teresa the e-filing site. Sorry, I don't know where you were at. But she said you would have trouble with it. So. But, you know, attorneys like it because it's simple. And younger attorneys, and I hate to say that, but they have no problem with it for all. You know, I spoke at the law school, one of the first ones I did, and I was nervous, and it was small practice attorneys, and they were older, and they were as panicked as I was, because they were sitting there and worried on, you know. And at the law school had invited some of the seniors from the law school in to do it also, just to fill out the room. So I'm going through this, and there were some technical problems, I don't remember, but nothing major. And I'm going through it, and buddy, they had questions. I mean, we were in there for an hour and a half, and it was question. And it was a lot of simple questions, technology questions, that I had no trouble answering. And finally got to the point where the law students were like, yeah, all you do is this, look, like that. They kind of just took over and were like, dude, chill, it's fine. And so now that we have a complete e-filing site, I sent it to several people at court, including my lovely wife, who's not seen anything. And I just sent it to her. I sent her a link and a username and password, and I said, file a document. It took her 4 minutes, and she filed a complete document with no instructions whatsoever. And she replied back, she said, it's like online shopping. And
attorneys will absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, they will not.
And I'm not, you know, and that was the whole point of it. We wanted to make it simple. We wanted to make it so where eventually we can offer it to pro se and be like, listen, here's all you do. And it's very simple. And like I said, we'll see it tomorrow. If you want to see it any other time, I'll be happy to show you. But you know, if you have any questions about it, ask me now, because tomorrow I gotta get on the road. And Barb, I think, is going to show you a little bit of the Clerk's module, what the Clerk's going to see. But, you know, not to make this all about e-filing, but it will make your lives easier, I promise. That's my goal. You know, I don't know if everyone believes that or not, but it truly is. You know, so any other questions about e-filing other than schedule? Yes.
Now, when you're saying how they'll be able to e-file the orders to the judges,
Yes.
you said they had accept, edit, reject.
And reject, yes.
So if they want to make changes, they can edit it and add what they want to it instead of scribbling out, putting above, and you can't read what they write?
Yes, basically it's, I don't know if you've ever used, Adobe has a program they've had it for years, but you can edit a document and it puts little bubbles beside it, you know, or like Word has it where you can track your changes. That's kind of what it's like, you know. So say an attorney proposes an order and the judge absolutely hates it but likes one sentence in it, okay? So, you know, basically the judge can take all that out, leave that one sentence, and it tracks the changes, sends it back to the attorney. Attorney's like, oh, okay. You know, it takes, or the judge can just submit it with his change, you know, whatever. But if he wants the attorney to change it, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, there will be no more handwriting. You won't, you know, the judge will just type into, it's a template. You know, we can show it to you tomorrow, but it's just a Word document template. It's what it looks like. And you know, the attorney can add the language, whatever, or the judge can initiate the order. I mean, it doesn't have to come from, you know, the attorney. But and then the judge accepts it. It sends it to the clerk, sends it to the attorneys that need to get a copy on it through email, and we're good to go. But like I said, yeah.
Are the judges seeing this? Are the judges seeing this at their judicial conference this week?
Good question. Yes, they will be seeing it tomorrow for the first time.
Is that why you're leaving?
That's why I'm leaving. I am on the agenda and at 4 o'clock, so you know I'm going to be driving.
That's where he's going.
And I'll be honest, judges aren't thrilled. They're a little bit scared. You know, and Judge James and Judge Alloy were. Even though they were gung ho about it, and like, we're going to do this. It was like with the paper, it's like, yeah, but you know, really, we can still do it the other way, right? But you know, once you see it, and I promise you, once you see it, it's just like, oh, I get it now. It's not complicated, and it's just it's simple. That's the best way to describe it. But yes, judges will be seeing it for the first time tomorrow. So if your judges come back and say, hey, let's e-file, you can say, call Matt Airwood. He's got the schedule.
And he won't tell us, he might
And
tell
I
us.
will not tell you. You know, like I said, the e-filing site's done. We're working on the case management because the two have to run together. And, you know, that's not necessarily the case management, it's equipment, it's Windows 7. I mean, there's a lot of things that come into it, you know, determining when we can go into an office. Scanning capabilities, you know, for you counties that are out in scanning, yes, you help us tremendously. The other thing, since I'm going to talk about it, is when I show attorneys e-filing, again, some of them are like, okay, whatever, we can do it. Especially if they file federally, they have no problem with it. But you show them the vault, and where they can have access to public records from wherever they're sitting, yeah, they like that. So, again, you may be getting those questions from attorneys if they've seen my presentation. Hey, you e-file? You can tell them, call Matt Airwood, he's got the schedule. That's just a little bit of heads up, you know. A good question, Brenda, thank you. Any other questions? Yes?
You know, with the orders, once the judge sends it to us, what if we find a mistake in that order, like we do now sometimes, we don't sign off on it, we'll take it back to the judge with a sticky note and say, hey, there's something wrong with this order. Will that work the same way? Can we electronically shoot it back with a note to the judge, or is it going to have to be processed with an error?
Oh.
Why would you, if it's in the paper world,
We would
and
send,
but it's an order that the judge has signed, you have to enter it, and if there's something wrong, then you tell him to do, ask him to do an amended order.
Yeah.
Or
See,
the
we get
attorney
it-
or whomever for
we get it
audit.
fixed ahead of time now, instead of doing amendments. We catch that mistake, the judge
But it
corrects
Just take
it.
it back, yeah.
So can you not do that electronically?
No.
Right now, no.
No, you'll have to, it's,
You have to accept an order that may have the wrong name in it.
right, but
the wrong
it's an
amount
order
in
that a
it.
judge has entered, and even in the paper world for auditing purposes, you enter the order, if there's a problem in it, then you get the judge or whomever enters, the judge enters an amended order correcting the one that the mistake was in.
And one of the things is, you know, the judge and their staff are going to have extensive training. And part of the training is, okay, you know, you have this at your capability. There shouldn't be those kind of mistakes, you know, because you can change stuff on the spot. You know, but there's human error. There's always going to be human error. And, but like I said, in a paper world, once the judge signs it, even if it's wrong, it's still an order. You know, that just may be something that we'll have to figure out. You know, whether or not we want to kick it back to them, or if we just want to do say, hey, you got the wrong name on there, you need to do an amended order. But again, and this goes back to when we train attorneys. Let's say an attorney does that order. We tell attorneys, it's on you now. Attorneys have the obligation, with e-filing, the obligation is on them to not make mistakes.
Right.
They might make a mistake, but it's not on the clerk, it's not on the judge, it's on them. And there's an electronic audit trail that says, yeah, no one's touched this but, you know, John the attorney.
Yeah, sometimes it's the wrong number.
What's the wrong number?
I'll be honest, are there honestly clerks here who, if that comes over from the judge, now in paper, and you see a glaring error, that you make him do it, I mean, we just walk, Judge, this is wrong. He fixes it after he checks and makes sure, and we never have an official thing of that first order. It never was an order. It was like I don't know what it was.
Well, in that scenario, that's not going to happen because it's automatically populated from the
That's what I'm saying, it's out there now.
No, what I'm saying is there won't be a wrong case number. There won't be stuff because that will be automatically populated from the system. No one will be entering a case number.
It'll just happen.
It'll just happen.
That's sweet. That works, that's sweet. That's real, that's good.
They're not uploading orders. That's the difference.
I like that.
They're creating the order electronically from a template that already has all the information in it. It already has the names, it already has the case number. Technically, no one's entering that information other than that attorney. And again, it's on them.
Right.
They do it wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
Their deal.
And you know, if you find it wrong in electronic, you go to your judge and be like, your attorney did it wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
What you're saying is once they file a new case, that information gets pulled from that case.
yes. And it populates everything else.
The field is then on. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not uploading anything.
That's not really a standard order.
Well, that's one thing judges are going to have to get used to. There's going to be standard, if they want extra language in there, they're going to have to cut and paste from another document, put in that template. But there's going to be a standard template with your basic case headers, you know, your information up top. If they want, you know, Brenda has a judge, a family court judge who, I mean, yeah, I mean,
At least 40 pages.
at least 40 pages on an order. He does.
Every time?
Every time. Yeah. And let's say, but what I'm saying is for the basic information, there's going to be a template. If they want extra stuff in there, they're responsible for doing that. Either the judge or the attorney. But there will be no uploading.
Okay.
You know?
Matt,
Yeah.
how long's federal court already been doing this?
Yeah, since like mid-2000s, something like that. Mid-90s, someone said in the back. You can't believe anything he says.
Long time.
Yeah. And you know, attorney, if you come across an attorney who's federally filed, they're like, okay. You know, they have no problem with this because you want to know the difference between us and the federal system? E-filing's all the same thing. Let's be honest. It's all the same principle.
Right.
It depends on how simple you make it. But there's one major difference in everyone who e-files. It's cost. Ours is free. We're not charging attorney fees. Federally, every time they view a document, they pay. Every time they download it, they pay. We're not doing that.
Eventually. Who knows?
Well, I mean, if you ask some people, they always want to leave it open just in case.
Get used to it.
But the way we are heading right now is we're not going to charge them. The only thing extra they're going to be charged is if they pay with credit card, that continues charge. And some of them balk at that, but then I tell them, like, really, it's $4. Charge your client.
Right.
Yes.
Charge $12.
Yes. Yes.
Right now, the DMV requires a raised seat on the document. How is that going to take place?
So our question was, how are we going to do like the raised seal, like you're saying, approving? I get that question a lot. Basically, we have the pilot e-filing rules. When we have the final e-filing rules, just like you have the rules of civil procedure, there will be a section that says, okay, whatever stamp, electronic, digital stamp we design or put in the system, that will count as that. You know, I had an attorney argue, he's like, I mean, he pulled up, you know, the raised seal, he's like, I need that. I was like, okay, if the court says that's what this is, that's what, no, you don't understand. I mean, you know, the rules will, just like the rules of civil procedure, you know, the rules now say, okay, a raised seal, if that's what's represented, it will say this digital signature, this digital stamp is what makes this an official copy.
So when people take it to another state,
So if you take it to another state or whatever,
sufficient.
it will be, and eventually it won't be an issue. You know, in the beginning, yeah, it probably will be. Other states are like, yeah, there's nothing. This isn't a raised seal.
Yeah.
What is this? And you may have to send them the rules from West Virginia. But that's how that's going to work. Any other questions? Yes.
With the attorneys that you've been,
Go ahead.
with the attorneys that you've been meeting with, I assume there's the ones that have been doing mass litigation,
Yes.
e-filing for several years, like the Kanawha County and the others who started after that. So they're probably on board and ready to go with it, right?
Yes. And there's fewer of those. And like I said, you know, we're not touching that. That's still going to work the same way it's always going to work. Eventually, yeah, we'll probably merge the two systems. You know, there's no sense in having two. But right now, for the foreseeable future, we will not. But most of those attorneys, yeah, they're fine with it. They like the fact that they get email, you know. There's several firms in Charleston that communicate with other firms through email. They already have their own version of e-filing. You know, they email documents back and forth between themselves. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think that the transition is going to be as hard as some anticipate. You know, there's always going to be people who are completely terrified of it and who are not ready for it, but, you know, we'll walk them through it, you know.
Baby steps.
Will the bar, is the bar gonna have like an email directory, just like they have a directory, I guess, that we will be using this off of, that we will be getting these emails from these attorneys, or, I mean, I had one attorney already, and it's the only gripe that she had to me about this was, I have 2 email accounts that I've checked already, and I'm not gonna do a third, and I said, well, I imagine it's gonna be the email that you've given to the bar, and she said, I don't check that. And I'm like, well, I'm assuming that's what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
is
The
check
question
that.
is, how will the attorney, you know, attorney email? Yeah, Mark can help me answer this. The bar is going into the 19th century now, no, I'm joking, 21st century, I guess. State bar is, they're gearing up there. They have a young guy who's their tech support now. I don't think they ever had a tech guy before, did they? Not really. But yes, how we're setting the system up is just to, when attorney registers, right now they can put up to 5 emails in there, meaning if they have multiple emails, that's fine. But if whatever email they most use, or they can put their staff's email.
Right.
So if they have a paralegal, an assistant.
So that's done upon filing.
That's done upon filing.
So we already have that in the case file.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not responsible for that. Once it goes, you just hit a button to send it where it needs to go, it automatically hits where it needs to go. You don't have to put in those, you don't have to email them, if that's what you're asking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We just submit the
Yeah.
order and it goes where it's supposed to.
Yes.
Remember the new e-filing
No
rules?
more reading orders.
What now?
The new e-filing rules make it mandatory that attorneys check their
Yeah, as Mark was saying, the new pilot e-filing rules make it mandatory for attorneys to have an email address. They must have one. Okay? They gotta have their bar number and an email address. That's all I care about. And a credit card. A couple weeks ago, the state bar sent out a memo from me, luckily, to attorneys, to every attorney in the state of West Virginia or outside the state of West Virginia, because I got calls from Hawaii or somewhere, I don't remember. Basically, it says, hey, attorneys, e-filing's coming. Make sure your information is correct. And they went to a link to a database that makes sure their mailing address, their email address, their phone numbers, everything was correct. Well, the link didn't work right. I don't know what the problem was. I was averaging like 47 calls a minute. You know, some attorneys got it to work or would call me email like, did you get that? I'm like, who are you? And then I had one call from somewhere, and so am I e-filing now? No. What? Well, I put this information, so can I e-file now? No. This was just, but to answer your question, yeah, technically you don't have to email anything. There will be, when they are a part of the case, they're automatically in there. So whenever something happens within that case, it automatically generates notice to them. No one is sitting there typing in email addresses. Yes?
Your Secretary of State filings, once they file a civil suit, and then they want the Secretary of State served, do they do their service, or do we go in and can we electronically email to the Secretary of State?
Barb, you want to take that one?
I'm sorry, I was
Secretary of State
sorry.
The Secretary of State service, if they elect to have the Secretary of State do the service.
The service, the Secretary of State.
Where they could pay
The Secretary of State there will be a fee that the Secretary of State will charge to print out those documents down there to send it out. You're not going to have to print it out like you did in your office and send it. It's done down there. It'll be put on your credit card. We still have to figure that part out, how we get them their money for those copies that they're going to make to send it out. So.
Yeah, and that's a good question. I mean, stuff like that's going to keep me up at night because there's all these little things. And then, like I said, the Secretary of State charges $1 per page. It could be quite expensive, and then attorneys looking at a filing that's, went from $200 to $700. And they're going to be like, what? And So, you know, the Secretary of State is not ready to go completely digital yet, and I don't know how they would technically, you know, because, you know, sometimes they're serving out of state. And so that's stuff that we're going to have to deal with, you know. I don't have a complete answer to that, but we're looking. Yes.
So this money, I mean, when they file this, they're filing it, and it's gonna go straight into our bookkeeping account, so we're not gonna be entering that like we do now,
No.
correct?
And Mike can maybe answer this, you know, but yeah, technically it will pre-populate when they e-file it. The e-filing system will hit the case management system, and it will go where it needs to
So
go.
what's gonna happen if you have a substitution of counsel? I mean, if counsel changes, are they able to, like, can't they, in a civil action, you stop paying this attorney, you decide to get a new attorney, are they gonna be able to access that? And
Yes.
normally they file a notice of appearance.
Once they do that, then they associate themselves with the case.
Yes, they can associate themselves with the case.
They go in and they file to be associated, you know, that.
Yeah, there'll be a section on the e-filing site for them to associate themselves. And I tell attorneys this, I'm like, it's on you. Don't be doing this just so you have access, because we will not.
Right, because I'm thinking like even in a juvenile case, you know what I mean? If you have, or in a, let's say a domestic case, where you have an attorney that wants to be nosy.
Well, and that's been brought up, and we're still looking at that. We may have it to go through the clerk or go through the judge's office. You know, technically, we could just put it on the attorney and say, you know, if you associate yourself and you associate yourself in a juvenile case, well, the judge is going to find out. Everyone's going to know. And you do. You have to deal with the consequences. But, you know, or we could have the clerk or the judge approve it. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of school of thought of it. You know, put it on the attorneys. You know. Yes.
Were those for the more sensitive cases?
Hold on.
For more sensitive cases, like the juvenile cases, the attorneys do not have the ability to self-associate. They have to come into the courthouse or contact the courthouse and get the clerk's office to associate them with the case before they can.
So they're still going to be giving us a notice of.
And what he means is they, even if they know the case number or whatever, it don't show up. There's nothing they can see to associate themselves with.
Right.
Because it's a confidential case, sealed case, that sort of thing.
But still, isn't that the way the original attorney, I mean, I'm assuming that original counsel that originates this case is going to have to choose whether it's a confidential case or not, or will the system determine that by the type of...
Yeah, by the type of case. If they file it, if it's a juvenile case, it's automatically confidential. No one says... If it's something that needs to be confidential that's not normally, then yeah, they would need to file, you know. But if
like
it's...
SIGs and FIGs.
If it's a SIG or FIG, that's automatically confidential. It doesn't show up, you know. Everything that should be confidential is automatically confidential based on the case type. So. Okay, our question was like family court where the order's public, but the rest of it's not. Basically, with, you know, an attorney can only see what they're associated with in the e-filing system, okay? They can't just go in and look at a public document just because it's public. We're going to have the separate vault side to where if they pay the subscription fee, they can view public documents. Domestic orders will be, you know, that's a public document. But to answer your question, no, technically, just because it's public doesn't mean an attorney can go in and see it. They have to pay the subscription fee for the vault in order to do that. And therefore we have an audit trail that shows who looked at that. Yeah, I mean, you know, basically for attorneys on the e-filing site, everything's confidential unless you're associated with that case. To view it electronically another way, you have to access the system a different way. Saw a question back here. Yes.
What about the pro se people that come in with their divorce packets or paperwork? What do you do with that?
Pro se's will never be required to e-file. We can't put that on them.
So we'll still have a file?
You will still, well, basically what the clerk will do is e-file for them. You will scan it in the paperwork or create the digital document for them, and then it becomes an e-file document from that point on.
Will they ever get to the point where we have a public terminal in our office for the public?
Yes.
Software side?
Yes, the Supreme Court, once we roll it, we come into a county and we're implementing e-filing, we will put multiple public terminals in every circuit clerk's office. And what those terminals, they will be able to, and there's still some school thought of there's some school thought that want those public terminals to access everything, every public terminal in every circuit clerk's office across the state. There are some saying just that county. I don't know yet. We're going to put a committee together to decide what's best for the state of West Virginia. But yes, every county will have public terminals supplied to them by the Supreme Court that are maintained by us, and that way pro se people can e-file if they want to. Because it's simple.
Can we assist them like say we have an elderly person come in, they don't know how to.
Yeah, you'll have to.
We can help them.
You'll have to. Yeah, you'll have to help pro se.
Kind of like we do here.
Just like you do now. It's really not changing anything. It's just changing. It's just changing formats. It's the same thing to do business now. It's just a different medium.
He's getting a little hot under the collar there. Too many questions for him. With pro se individuals coming in and filing, you know what's going to be terrific is you can help them and scan in their documents for them and get it e-filed, but then guess what you do?
Give it back.
You give it back to them. Here's your copy, here's your paperwork. Thank you very much. When you need to file something else, you come in and we'll scan it in and take care of that for you. But you get your own copy back because we have electronically, don't need it or want it. Just like cashing a check now and stuff, you get a lot of it done electronically, but so it's going to be just like that. So no additional paper in our office. You hand it back to them once you're done.
Trees will thank us when you say. I've been watching the Lorax a lot lately, so.
Not the Lorax.
Unless.
Yes.
Yes.
CDRs and tickets. How are we gonna do that?
Tickets, the UJA has a system right now. Mark might be able to, basically it's a report beam.
It's electronic. Okay, Report Beam is a electronic ticketing system that is currently in about 15 counties. Preston, on Fayette, Mercer, Kanawha. And what it is an application that sits in the trooper's cruiser. They'll actually write the ticket, print it out for the end user, and then electronically the data is sent to the magistrate's office. It's processed there and then passed electronically on to DMV for all of the license issues. So it's primarily being used by state police. I know several county police. Monmouth County is looking at it, a couple others. But again, it's paperless, so you don't actually ever see the tickets. Okay, I think Carolyn Stoker of the Magistrate is running it if you guys are interested in getting a little more info. So.
And CDR spoilers, that's tomorrow. Kelly's going to demonstrate. We met with the state police and basically asked them what, and Kelly's going to explain what the state police need. And because they need certain stuff, and we'll hopefully give it to them, and they seem to be happy with what we've showed them thus far. But again, it's full.
Hey Matt.
Yes.
We do have a new electronic CDR form that has just gone out.
Yeah, there is a new electronic CDR form, but I haven't seen it. So.
And if he hasn't seen it,
that's another division. Sorry. Yes.
So the timestamp card, we won't need that anymore because you're going to electronically file that with us.
Question was timestamp clock. No more.
That's great.
No need.
What, we just bought a new one?
Yeah. And Brenda brought up, other than Bug's already returning his too, I don't know where he bought it from, but you got the receipt?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Brenda Jackson brought up a good point is, pro se, when you hand them back, you will need a note on their form at some point, what. But, where the timestamp comes into effect is with attorneys. That's, they're trying to beat that deadline, so, but yeah, there won't be.
On a pro se, we'll still clock it.
Well, you will e-file it. If you will put it in the system, you will e-file it technically, so it will be clocked
That's
that
why
way.
it's be clocked in by the electronic clocking.
Yeah. There will be no more physical timestamp that. Yes.
Print up the front page and give us
Okay, I'm a little bit confused. Will we use the date and the time that the judge actually signed off on the order as being entered, or when we open the document?
Whoa.
That's what I was.
How is it now? The question was, what is the time on the order? Is when the judge signs it or when the clerk opens it?
When the judge signed the order.
Okay. How many is it when the judge signs it? Raise your hand.
You mean at this time?
At this time. How you do it right now. When the judge signs it, that's when it's official. What about when the clerk opens it?
When the clerk enters it. It's when we clock it, right? That's why we clock it. No, not all of them do.
Judges don't enter right. You don't have to enter. Again, this is why this is why it's good, because you all do things differently.
That's why judges change the language and
you had judges who many moons ago decided, hey, it's going to be this way. And John had just said it this way, and I'll be honest, I go with John. My rule is whenever I get in trouble, and I will eventually, let's be honest. You all know. You all call John Hedges, okay? That's who you call. Or actually Teresa. Because John don't like it.
once you sign it, once the judge signs it, it's like back to zero. The case file is done.
How about we make sure the electronic filing rules document this, make it official as, that's what they say. When the court processes it, or if John's proven wrong, and it's when the judge pushes it, then that's the way it'll be.
That's right. Order 2 months ago.
We're talking about that.
But again, this is part of the problem with paper documents. It is.
Well, they can get lost. I mean, that's the problem.
Exactly.
The judge can sign an order and it is
Okay.
This really is an easy It really isn't a question in the electronic world, because when the judge signs the order, it's immediately in the clerk's files. And so the time really is the same.
Exactly.
What? I got a question, buddy.
Which brings up the question of mandatory e-filing, which some people want. And we will have, but it may not be tomorrow.
Yeah. What happens when,
And I thought attorneys would write scenarios.
yeah. What happens when, from family court, someone gets divorced? They're not divorced until the clerk files. I had a lady from North Carolina thought she'd been divorced for 5 years. We'd never seen the order. She done been remarried. Now the point is that'll change though, right?
Yeah, because like Mike just said, once the judge processes electronically, it's done.
Yeah, but
We don't file, he does.
Right. But you hit your system, you get a notification that it was done.
Right.
So we have to accept that.
okay, but
No.
Done.
We
Matt,
don't need it. It just gets everything.
No.
Well, I just asked it. It just gets processed whether we see it.
You cut your staff in half.
You look at
How you can cut your, that's the
Yeah, I mean,
question. How long do we have a job?
Well, there's still parts of the order where.
there's plenty of it.
That's a good question. That's why,
How long do we have a job?
Basically, we're going to build robots that look like bugs.
We are.
Well, that's a good thing anyway.
Yes, you will always be needed. Yes, and stuff like this, it may seem like that, but there's always human error, like we brought up earlier.
Now, what about?
But there's still orders that the clerk needs to read, but basically what we're saying is it just kind of eliminates that paper, But yeah, it technically will hit your file. You'll get an email notice. You still need to look at it.
Do we have an electronic signature?
The minute they're written, show up.
Does the clerk have an electronic signature? What?
The stamp.
The stamp, yeah.
That's your name and the electronic stamp is your name.
Because we still have to process any directions, even in an investment case. We may have to pay out GAL fees.
That's why when it shows up in the clerk's queue, every order that the judge sends to you, it shows up in your queue, and you click on it, and you have to just go down and see if there's anything where you're instructed to do, just like you do now.
Yes, you still follow. You're still needed. You're still looking. It comes up just like the judges have an order queue where they can approve or reject. You'll have a queue that says, and you still need to do what you need to do with it.
When it comes in with that electronic stamps come in at the time, it's us or after the review.
That's a question that we'll determine in the rules. Yeah.
Linda, me. Hey, man. All right. You have an attorney, and he has time restraint. He has to have it filed today.
Okay. You've got till midnight tonight. Let's say we're in the e-filing world.
E-filing world. We close our office at 4:30. I won't get it until in the morning to actually view it.
That's a good question. Technically, in the e-filing system, even though the circuit clerk's office is closed and that attorney files that at 11:59, he has filed it.
Same with the backs.
Same, yeah. And that's what the rules say. The pilot e-filing
We're
rules
the
say.
same with running down to the courthouse and doing it, because the guy's bigger than you.
Or, call Virginia.
I'm closed.
At 8:30, be like, Virginia, I'm in a bad spot. I got a file this. Virginia, would you meet him? Virginia would meet him.
Oh.
See?
Yeah.
I would,
I
wouldn't want to.
But yes, you'll see tomorrow, the attorneys will get a receipt that says your case has been filed. You're done.
Now, what happens when your internet connection fails? It happens often in Hancock County that our internet goes down. What happens at that point?
Excellent question. I don't know what rule it is. If Kelly can pull up the e-filing rules, won't you do that? That'd be great. That is part of the e-filing pilot rules, and it will be part of the other rules too, because that's a major part of it. What the e-filing rules say that if it's a major system malfunction, meaning it's on the court's end or the vendor's end, then you will get a pass. But if you have the scenario where your internet's down, or as one attorney told me, he's like, what happens if a tornado busts through my house? What I told that attorney was, I'm like, you get your laptop, you drive to McDonald's, they got free Wi-Fi. I don't care.
You should have waited till the last day to file that appeal.
And that's what I tell them. I'm like, this is on you now. You can't blame the clerk's office any longer. You can't blame Mother Nature. I don't care if your internet goes down. That's not my concern. If you don't get it filed because your internet went out and you want to go explain to the judge and try to get, that's on you. I don't care. But there will be no exceptions made unless it's a unless, and what I'm saying is, let's say an attorney, and what I mean by that, let's say an attorney tries to e-file something and there's an obvious error, we'll have an audit log that shows this person logged in, tried to e-file, there was an error. And that's how we'll know that it's going on. Yes?
When Mike was saying about, like, before the e-filing world, and it's instantaneous, I'm assuming then orders with your timestamp, such as like 022 scheduling orders and stuff, those will already be generated when that judge electronically signs that. Like, okay, let's say you got a judge working at midnight, clerk's office closed. Is that time standard for us getting out those orders, that judge is already sending out those orders, correct?
Yeah, if
so it's already
It's already went.
being distributed, so our time standard really doesn't count anymore in that instance, correct?
Unless there's a pro se party or somebody that doesn't have an email address.
This is where you're still needed.
All attorneys are required, when they're added onto the case, they're required to put their email address. So the only time that that would come into place, Kim, is if there's a pro se litigant that does not have an email address, because once the judge hits that, it's.
Okay, but that's still
Or
gonna
an
come up
out-of-state
in our
person.
list of ones to check, and then we're gonna know,
Right.
or how, that's what I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around. How do we know that there is a pro se litigant in that Rule 22 scheduling order, and I've gotta get it out?
The clerk has a or a queue
Because
that
the judge did it
notifies
last
us.
night. You know what I'm saying? Am I making sense?
You have a queue.
You have a queue that you will have to check.
Okay.
And that's why you're still needed. We can't replace you with those robots yet. Although that'd be pretty cool, let's be honest.
But it will be from the time standard of when you submitted it then, correct? Not when the clerk opened it. Like,
Again,
in a
Dawn.
Rule 22 scheduling order, where there's a time standard.
Yeah, when you submitted it.
It will be when he submitted it, so if he submitted it at midnight on Friday night and it's Monday morning, and I'm opening it, now I'm outside my time standard for a Rule 22 scheduling order.
But as long as his midnight signing was within that rule, it counts,
Do you
right?
see what I'm saying?
Not really.
Well, what I'm saying is, Rule 22 scheduling order.
Yeah.
Get that out. Okay, so if a judge is still working Friday